Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to the balcony here at First Presbyterian Church in Evansville, Indiana. I do hope this day finds you well. I've got a nice range of music for you today, starting with music by the composer Angela Becker. She was married, her maiden name was Lensettle. I think she was of Polish extraction, and she married the famous American organist Rene Becker, who concluded his career in Detroit at the Church of the Blessed Sacrament. But they also moved around various other places in the Midwest and had a large number of children along the way. Angela herself was very well known and a very capable and virtuoso pianist, organist, and she was also a composer. A couple of weeks ago, I played some music which had emerged from an attic here in Evansville, and this is one of those venerable old scores. And delving through quite a large pile, about this big, I came across 3 or 4 pieces by women composers, and I'm trying very hard to perform music written by women, and certainly women who are alive as well in these lunchtime concerts. So this is the Grand Chorus by Angela Becker. It's in 3 main parts. There's an opening section, very grand, very formal, and it's got a hint of Gilbert and Sullivan about it, or perhaps you'll hear hints of Lefebvre Bailey's famous sorties. There's an inner, much more lyrical section, and then the first idea returns as a da capo with a very short coda at the end. So, the Grand Chorus by Angela Becker. before I play too much more, I need to tie the shoelace on my right shoe so my shoe doesn't come off. Sorry. There we go. Now, on to the music of Bach. There are so many wonderful collections of music by Bach, and I played one of the most famous pieces back in December in Advent, the setting of Wachet auf. Well, that turns out to be the first of a collection of 6 chorales, commonly known as the Schubler chorales. They are all organ chorales, and they are all in various different styles, moods, and settings and textures. So today I'm going to play the second of the Schubler chorales, Wo soll ich fliehen hin? And a translation of that is, where should I take refuge? Where can I find rescue? For I am burdened with sins both great and many. If all the world came, they would not take my fear away. So the texture here is a duet, a bicinium, 2 parts in the manuals, kind of running around, talking to each other, and various little motifs that come back again and again and again, and then the melody is played in the pedals. Unusually, Bach specifies that there should be 16-foot tone in the left hand in the There it went, 16-foot tone onto the floor. And that the right hand should have regular 8-foot pitch. So today I'm going to use the 16-foot Bordens. We're very fortunate to have 2 16-foot flue stops, one on each manual. So the oboe will be sounding at 8-foot pitch and also the Italian principal. The melody will be in the pedal at 4-foot pitch, so sounding an octave higher than played by the feet. And finally, because it's such a beautiful stop, I'm going to use our bass clarinet played up an octave in the right hand. There remain a couple of chorale preludes from the early part of the Orgelbuchlein for the turn of the year that I haven't yet played, and this, I think, brings us to a complete performance of almost every chorale in the Orgelbuchlein during the course of the last year, since March the 19th, when I started doing these. So today, one which I have not yet done, focuses on the turn of the year again. Helft mir Gott's Güte preisen, BWV 613. And it's possible that Bach actually wrote this one a little bit later than the other ones and went back and completed it, simply because it's got quite dense counterpoint, which is more typical of some of Bach's later writing, although his handwriting is of the earlier of his earlier life. So it may be that he was looking ahead and in this one page of music came up with some really intricate things which were going to form the basis of the rest of his compositional output. So the melody is not particularly well known to us these days, at least not to me, and here is an outline of that tune. So those opening three notes form the basis of all of the accompanimental material. Bum, 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 ba. And it shows up all over the place, in all of the parts, pedal parts, the interior manual parts, and then the melody sits on top in slightly longer note values. So here is BWV 613. A translation of the text, that one: help me glorify God's goodness, dear children, and in songs and other melodies be thankful to God at all times, above all at the time of the year, when the time of the year comes to an end and the sun turns to us again and the new year is not far off. So I'm maybe a month behind on that one, but there we are. Here then, finally, from the Orgelbuchlein today, is In dir ist Freude. Now, this is actually quite a well-known tune these days. In thee is gladness. Here's the tune. As rendered in a number of modern hymnals. Now, much like some of the other chorale preludes, Bach's treatment of this melody is unlike any other setting in the entire Orgelbuchlein. It's as if he's taken that melody, and it's a really nice plate, and he's just smashed it on the floor, and then he looks at the fragments and goes, oh, well, I'll use that bit here and that bit there, and this bit over here, and just sort of mushes them all back together, trying to make a dinner plate out of the tune, but it's all broken up. So you'll hear this part of the melody. In particular, that shows up a lot of the time. There's a lot of very celebratory material. Just jolly, fill in, having a happy time. And the bass line in the pedal keeps repeating along these lines. And you may think, well, that doesn't sound like part of the tune at all. And in fact, it isn't. It is the last 5 notes of the bass line of the harmonization. So, if I were to play the end of the chorale melody in 4 parts, is the harmonization of those 5 notes. And Bach just introduces a little bit of rhythm instead of. He writes this. From the very end of the chorale in the bass part, under supporting the harmonization. So here is In dir ist Freude, EWV 615. For the rest of my program here this afternoon, I'm going to turn to this other beautiful instrument which we have currently in the balcony here at First Presbyterian Church, our lovely David Sutherland harpsichord dating from 1997. It's an Italian-style harpsichord with one manual and two sets of strings, and also it has a buff on what we call the back eight, which is a mute. I won't be using that today, but it is there. And I'm going to play one of Handel's suites. This is in D minor. It's not the famous suite that contains the famous sarabande, but that'll be coming another day, I hope. It's in 4 movements. There's an allemande, a courante, a sarabande, and a jig. The first movement, the allemande, and in fact each of these different dances are divided in 2. There's an A section, which repeats, and then a B section, which repeats. Both the allemande, which is in 4 time, the courante is in 3, the sarabande is in a slow 3 with an emphasis on beat 2, rather weirdly, and then the final movement is a jig, dancey, boisterous movement. The first movement will have both sets of strings, both the front 8 and the back 8. The courante I will play on the main set of strings, the front 8. The sarabande I will play on the back 8, and then they will both come together again for the jig at the end. So, thank you very much again for joining me for music from First Presbyterian Church this Thursday lunchtime at noon. Do join us again next week. We will have a guest artist, Diana Chu, who is a doctoral candidate at the Jacobs School of Music up at IU Bloomington, will be here as a guest artist, and we very much look forward to hearing what she has to bring to us. Thanks again to Jerusha, who runs the AV and lets me know when it's working and not working and all that sort of stuff. And it was giving us a few little EBGBs this morning, but we got that sorted out. Join us also for worship on Sunday mornings at 8:30 and 10:30 here online. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and also on the church's website, firstpresevansville.com. Thanks again, and farewell. Bye-bye.